Welcome to the workshop. This is where I'm going to be answering the majority of the questions that come in this evening. Any question you send will pop up on the screens in front of me. This is what I'm working with here. Kind of cool, huh? All the tech we get to use tonight to answer hopefully some very important questions for families. If you want to put this on a big screen TV, go right ahead. Can make things a bit awkward to send in questions. Don't worry, if you do have your own phone with you, you can scan that QR code with your camera or go to slido.com, type in the codes right there. We'll also have where the video is streaming from and where you can also address questions. Now, I want to bring in the first question that came in, and let's pull it up on the screen, shall we? First question that came in, looks like earlier this week. Someone asked, how much screen time is appropriate for my elementary aged kids? Okay, screen time. Not surprised we got that question. For screen time, it's really hard to put a solid number on it. See, a lot of pediatric associations, the Canadian Pediatric Association, last time I checked, they do have recommendations up to age 6. I can't recall on the top of my head what the recommendations are, but Canada's official agencies on this stuff do have recommendations. The challenge is, that's pre-elementary school, right? The challenge that a lot of researchers are facing is there's a perspective change on amount of time versus quality of time. Now, yes, there's going to be a threshold, obviously, but there's a difference between if you're spending time online doing a school research project, completing a school assignment, versus just, playing games and doom scrolling TikTok. Right? Those are very different uses of the time. And so putting just a blanket, you get to spend 2, 3, 4 hours, really doesn't, pick out the differences in the quality of time. And one of the challenges that some families have faced working with families, it's not uncommon for families to reach out to us, ask questions. We're pretty public on the internet. We're not hard to find. So if you have a question even after tonight's live Q&A session, by all means, just send us a question and we'll love to help the best we can. So questions about the time. There have been some cases where a parent, family will have a set time, but the student needs to spend a lot of time working on a particular end of class research project. And so, they have about 5 hours remaining of actual work finishing a school project. However, the family only allows them maybe 4 hours or 3 hours of screen time. So sometimes families come in conflict with that. My recommendation, we really got to base it off of, your kids better than I do, better than the researchers do. So, if a young person, in my opinion, if they've done everything they've needed in the day, they've done their homework, they've eaten, they've showered, they've cleaned themselves, they've socialized, they've done everything that they need to be a healthy, productive human being. If the remainder amount of time that they have to just relax, unwind, maybe play some games, is that inherently going to be such a terrible thing for them to do? Probably not going to be the worst thing ever. Now, I think where issues really tend to arise here is when that screen time is now negatively impacting their friendships, their school, their eating, all those other things that we need in a healthy, balanced lifestyle. So I take it from that perspective and, separate it. It's the quality of time. Are they playing games in creative ways, communicating and socializing with their friends? Well, that's going to be, in my opinion, probably better than just doom scrolling TikTok. So there is a quality aspect there. And, when you put a time limit, do you add the amount of time a kid spent at school on a screen in a computer lab or on their computers or, doing research? It gets very, very, very messy. Once a young person gets into elementary school, the recommended times really don't seem to align as a hard recommended numbers. Before elementary school, I think there's some good guidelines from the government of Canada, but beyond that, it's really hard to say. It's really what you think feels right. If there's a negative impact, then you address it and you bring it back a bit. Big question, common question that we often get. All right. Other questions popping in. Let's take a look, shall we? Question. Should I get my kid an Apple or a Samsung first phone? Okay. What should the first phone be? It's really going to depend on the age. So when you say Samsung, I'm going to use, Android. Those are basically the two major different phones, Apple or Android. Pros and cons to both, definitely. What I can share with you is on the Android phones, the Google phones, the Samsung phones, you as a parent, as a caregiver, have way more controls. You can put way more different apps to monitor and filter. You have a lot more different toggles you can turn on. On Apple iPhones, like my iPhone right here, Apple puts a lot of restrictions on users on what they can and cannot do with their phones. My iPhone here, compared to the Android here, this Android can do way more things than the iPhone can do. But that restricted nature of the Apple ecosystem can potentially be a benefit, depending on what you're wanting to cover when it comes to safety and security as a family. In my perspective, what I see is if you want to install monitoring, filtering, any of those kind of apps, and I think I saw a question talking about those also. If you want to do any of that stuff, well, Android's probably going to be your best bet because there's way more special apps that you can download as a parent and a caregiver. However, typically those apps, the good functions, are not going to be free. Those apps are quite often going to cost you either a monthly or a yearly subscription. I mean, everything today costs a monthly fee. I'm pretty sure I saw on the news today that Netflix is going up by another $2 per month or something. If you're a new user and your next bill, if you're already a customer, is going up $2 a month. Like, wow. That's everything nowadays. So if that is your concern, you want to put those apps on there, often going to cost you something. Now, Apple Android, they do have built-in parental control features. Like, for example, Apple has family sharing, and Android has family link. Those are built-in monitoring, filtering, some limitation software built in to the ecosystem of the devices. What I would recommend is if you can keep everyone in your family in the same ecosystem. So if you are an Apple user, maybe that's what you want to introduce to your kids. If you're an Android user, perhaps that is. Because using the built-in monitoring, filtering, parental control features, it's hard to control an Apple from an Android and vice versa. You're going to come across a lot of challenges if you do that. You might have to then be forced to use a monitoring and filtering third-party app you pay a monthly fee for if you want to use different devices. So do be cautious there. Another interesting alternative, though, is Apple and Android, they're not the only ones. I think I have some. I do. I actually have some here on my set. There are we call them minimalist phones. There are less smart phones out there. Basically, this one here is the Pinwheel, and they have their own special sauce. They can only function like good classic flip phones. And yes, I think I have one here too. Yeah, I do. Also have a classic Razor. There are modern flip phones that do exist. This is one. I guess the old school classic Razors, those don't really exist much anymore. But there are modern flip phones. A little harder to find, but they do exist. If you're looking at like a pre-elementary school kid, flip phones are a pretty good option. But minimalist phones, it comes in a smartphone package, but it only has basic flip phone features. You cannot download Snapchat. You cannot download TikTok. You cannot do any of those super cool features. You can text. You can send pictures maybe, take pictures with the camera, use the map function, use the flashlight. It's pretty restrictive. So for some families, a minimalist phone can be a really good first option before you dive straight into the big smartphone, Apple, Android ecosystem. The challenge that some families we've worked with face is when they want to do that, those minimalist phones, because they're a more niche market, they just cost more. The price for a minimalist phone can be close to the price, if not more than, a brand new Apple iPhone. So for some families, the cost of entry to a more minimalist phone might be a barrier. But it is worth at least potentially looking into if you are looking for a more restricted solution. Okay. Any more questions? Popping in. At what age do you think it is okay to let my child have a phone? Well, I guess that will depend on what kind of phone you get them and what kind of limitations you put onto those phones. So if you're thinking of a minimalist phone, you can probably go a bit younger. I was at a school giving a presentation and a workshop to grade 4, 5s, and 6 and 7s. It was a school on the mainland. And whenever I do those, I always ask, how many of you have a phone? And what I can tell you is the grade 4s and 5s at the particular school I was at, it was about roughly close to about half, if not maybe slightly under, students had their very own smartphone. At grade 6, 7, majority of those have a phone. Definitely that grade 6 mark is definitely that big jumping point. Some communities that I've worked with, it's smaller, the amount of young people who have a phone at grade 4 or 5, but almost every community, once they reach that grade 6, 7 level, majority by far. That's probably, if you're looking at, what everyone else is doing, grade 4 or 5, you can start maybe thinking about introducing, definitely getting a phone that has limitations, using either, if you're the Apple family, use family sharing, Android, use Family Link, maybe even add in extra software to monitor and filter and limit things. Or just use a minimalist phone, which can solve many of those challenges. Question: what rules should I set for internet at home? Internet at home. I would say whatever rules you have in place, put them in writing. The families that we work with, the ones who put into writing, hey, we're going to give you a first-time brand new phone, as a family, here are the expectations. Makes things so much easier. It really makes your rules clear. If you just have verbal rules, hey, it's your birthday, it was the holidays not that long ago, here's your first time brand new phone, here you go, have fun, do good things, don't do bad things, and you just have like verbal agreements. The challenge with that is over time, those spoken rules can lose meaning, can be warped. It gives your kids definitely a lot more ability to argue with you over what your rules truly do mean. So I would recommend put your rules in writing, whatever those rules are. Do I have clear rules? Not exactly. Because a rule for one family might work really well for them, might not have any impact on other families. So of common rules that we've seen with families, the number one best rule by far, and we've been working in internet safety now and training for, over 30-ish years now, like safety training. Last 15 years or so, we've really focused on the digital side of things. Even way back then, all the way back in 2018 and such, we were teaching and talking to parents about, single best thing you can do, get devices out of the bedroom. It doesn't matter, it could be a device like a laptop, it can be a device like these, or, really any other smart device that your kids might be using in the bedroom. I can tell you from our experience, the number one biggest challenge is when most things go wrong, when bad things truly do happen, it's usually late at night in the bedroom with the internet unsupervised. By far, like majority of cases, when kids message us or families message us, that's usually where the bad thing had occurred. So you can dramatically increase the level of safety your kids would have on the internet by just removing the factor of when most bad things happen. Late at night, in the bedroom, unsupervised. And I've been teaching that for a long time, and even still today, we see the issues of things like this being brought into the home, in the bedroom, bedtime. Now they're not sleeping because they're doom scrolling TikTok until 3 o'clock in the morning. They're not getting the proper sleep. They're not doing as well in their sports, in their school, and it just spirals out of control. Single best thing, if one rule out of all, devices, bedrooms, no. Number one best thing you could do. Best rule. Next question. Are you seeing online gang recruitment in School District 61? Don't do a whole lot of work in the school district. I mean, even though we're local. I can't speak. I haven't done any clear investigations in that particular school district. What I can tell you is online extremism, recruitment for gangs happens online everywhere, especially in communities where if there's any kind of, if there are drugs, illicit drugs in a community, that means there's likely gang activity. So with gang activity, the online world is a fantastic tool for them for recruitment, to showcase wealth, to connect, to message. So I can't speak to any particular cases that we've been involved in as a licensed investigative group. Like sometimes we are tasked to do investigative work. I haven't seen myself any particular cases of that, but I know it happens across Canada. And I've seen examples across Canada. So I think it would be naive to assume it doesn't happen. Interesting question, though. What apps can I use to monitor phones? Being honest, there are so many out there. I don't have enough time to try every single app out there. Ones that come to mind, one of the best ones, although it's kind of more of like an American app, you can't really get it in the Canadian App Store. Bark has been really good, but it's definitely more of an American focus. So, Circle has one. I think Boomerang's still around. I think there's 360. I haven't tried that one. There's a bunch. Even a lot of antivirus programs that you pay for to protect your computer from hackers and scammers. I know those have their own parental controls. The thing I want to talk when it comes to parental controls and monitoring, number one, there are some sneaky, covert, secret apps you can download stealthily in order to spy on what your kids are doing. In our experience, those never go well. First off, often your kids, your teens are far more knowledgeable on how technology works, and they're probably going to detect something's not working. We've actually seen that happen, and we've seen families, just their relationships get destroyed because of it. Because a kid realizes, hey, there's a spying program on my phone. They accuse the parents, they find out about it, and it just gets out of control. So do be cautious. While monitoring, filtering tools, they have a purpose, you want to be very open and overt about it. Don't do it in a sneaky, spying way. Often, it just doesn't go well. Be open, be overt. Let your kids know, hey, have a thing on your phone. It watches you, just so you know. That's important. Also, number two, don't rely solely on a monitoring, filtering app or program to keep your kids safe. By far, one of the challenges we have working with families is to go, oh, well, we didn't know something bad had happened because, well, we have a monitoring app on the young person's device. Just as many apps that exist that allow you to monitor, filter, or limit what your kids can do on the internet, so do opportunities to get around whatever restrictions you have in place. So, a monitoring, filtering app is never, ever going to replace good relationships, conversations. They're tools, but don't rely solely on them. And in my experience, all the good ones will cost you either a monthly or a yearly fee. And they may not even work, because your kid can likely just get around them. Actually, one of the ways that we see this happening, just to share with you a story, was, family purchased a kid-safe web browser. A lot of safety apps, they have you don't use Chrome, you don't use Safari or Firefox. You have to download the kid-safe browser, which they do work to a degree. So you remove Chrome from the phone and Safari, so they can't go on the internet, and the sites they go to, you can be warned if they go to inappropriate websites. That is completely meaningless. Good story where some apps that you download might have in their app their own built-in web browser. So a kid, had a parental browser that locked things down and monitored them. But they had they had an app for books. No problem with that, right? Sure, you want to read? Go ahead, read a book. So, but in the reading app, also had their own internet web browser. So the young person, when they were going to sites that they, probably shouldn't have been going to. They were going to those websites in the Reading app's web browser built in. So they completely bypassed the parental browser that they had locked down for their kids. I mean, to be fair to the kid, that's actually, impressive, that they are able to do that. They are so creative. Again, just as many opportunities exist to lock things down, exist to also bypass the lockdowns. So, do be cautious. Don't rely solely on those things to do all that hard work. Doesn't replace communications and relationship building. What do I do if my kid is addicted to their phone? Ooh. A bunch of things to unpack there. First off, let's actually talk about addiction. There it is. Interesting. I think, in our everyday language, we often use the word, addicted to mean so many things that aren't actually classified as an addiction. You spend so much time doing what it is that you love, and people call it that you're addicted to whatever it is you love doing. If you're someone who loves knitting and you nonstop knitting, someone probably says, hey, you're addicted to your crafts, or, the challenge that we've seen over the last 10 years. Number one, there's a bit of a inappropriate use of the term addiction. If you're someone who has never experienced addiction or worked with those experiencing addiction, it can be really hard to empathize and relate to the vast differences to a teen who spends a lot of time on their phone compared to someone who's chemically dependent on an illicit substance. Those are two very, very different things. People often go, well, what about, there's like gambling addiction, right? Well, yes, gambling addiction is not a chemical substance. So there's been some discussions around, when that term and classification came in, it probably was not the proper classification to put it with chemical addictions. Maybe it should be on its own. But often the gambling addiction is what a lot of people will use to justify phone addiction. Now, I'm not saying there can't be problems, most certainly. I think what most people are using and what most researchers are referring to is problematic usage. Is kind of like a more global term being used to describe something that you are habitually and compulsively dependent on. We are getting some of those similar chemical feedbacks in your brain. We are seeing that. So yeah, not a huge fan of phone addiction or social media addiction. Honestly, it's problematic usage. You could have a problem when it comes to food consumption, media consumption, device usage. Yeah. So, okay, young person who you love, they have a dependency, they have a compulsion with their phones. What can you do about it? In our perspective, in what we deal with here in the White Hatter, for me, it's really coming at it. What is the underlying reason that kind of led to that compulsive usage? Is it that a young person is using social media because they are craving social interaction? Well, yeah, you can phase in other replacements for that. Perhaps actually finding in-person engagement opportunities that can fulfill the need that they're looking for. That's one strategy. You can monitor filtering. Some monitoring filtering apps and programs, they do allow for time limits, time restrictions that you can put in place. Actually, you can actually get, I think I have one here. I do. If you're looking to manage internet time usage, routers. So the internet boxes that you probably, you get from your internet provider. Well, you got Rogers, formerly Shaw, Telus. Do we have Bell in BC? I think just Bell Mobile. I don't think we have Bell, like, home internet. Whatever provider that you have, you typically get a box, provides you Wi-Fi for all your devices. You don't actually have to use the internet box that comes with your internet provider. You can use something different. More powerful routers. Some are even built with parental control features. I think one of the better features are the abilities to identify a young person's device and put a time limitation on, say, perhaps you have a device curfew at a certain time. So no internet after 10 p.m. or whatever you choose as a family. What's a benefit about doing that from the router level is you can apply that to all the devices that your kids may have. That can include things like gaming consoles, smart TVs, because those devices might not have robust monitoring, filtering programs built in, or smart TVs and gaming consoles. You might not be able to install monitoring, filtering apps that lock things down further. So if you can control things, the internet, before it even reaches that device, can be a possibility to kind of manage and control how those devices are being used. So there are some options to kind of control device usage and the amount of time you spend. How can I tell if an app or a website is safe for my kids? Well, you're not. I mean, you're not. If you're going to known, reputable, commonly used, filtered, monitored, controlled websites that are brand recognizable, well, you're probably going to have a better likelihood that good things are going to come from that. Where things get messy is any online platform that allows for interpersonal communication, sending messages, videos. There is no app or program that can effectively prevent any bad thing from happening on a user-generated content site. Yeah, I mean, even here on YouTube, I mean, there is YouTube Kids, which is a platform. It's a subset of YouTube for content that's more, kid appropriate. Although I'm sure you've probably heard, over the last X amount of years that we've had folks manipulating their algorithms to try to get inappropriate content on the YouTube Kid platform. So there's never a guarantee in a situation like that. My recommendation is, depending on the age, obviously, but, having more approved sites. Like, hey, great, you want to go online, have fun, do great, amazing things. Here are the websites that you have already pre-approved. You might even want to put that in your family agreements, your family contracts, whatever you want to use to have your family rules in place. Putting those in there. Here are the places that you're allowed to go. Can be a way of managing that, especially for the younger kids that you may love. How do I make online gaming safe for my kids? Probably pretty similar. Online gaming, it's going to depend on the game. So yes, games have ratings. Do I have a game on my set? A box? I don't think I do. But yeah, games have ratings. E, E10, M, teen, right? Games have ratings. But, in every game rating, there's a clear disclaimer that, hey, online interactions are not rated. So if you're doing an online game and it allows anyone anywhere to message you or contact you, well, there's obviously a possibility to receive something that you may not appreciate. There's no way to easily prevent that. Now, in some games, you can kind of limit that. Fortnite can be a good example. I'm a fan of Fortnite. I play Fortnite every Friday with my friends. I even stream it sometimes here on YouTube, which can be kind of fun. What I like about that is in Fortnite, there are no open mics by default. When you just join a round of 100 people playing a round of Fortnite, you can't message them, you can't talk to them. Now, if you party up, so you play collaboratively with other people, well then, yes, then you can use your voice chatting and such. So you can make it safer, but maybe in your family rules and policies that, when you're playing online games and you're partying it up, you're joining in as a group, that who you're playing with are, people who you actually truly do know, prove friends that actually and who their families are. That can be a way for you to more easily manage that. What is the safest social media for kids? I don't know. There is none. There is none. Doesn't exist. I guess there can be safer platforms, but I've never actually seen a truly safe social network. Just by the nature of what they are and how they work and how they function, social media allows you to communicate to another person. Well, the other person might say or do something you might not appreciate. There's people have been sending horrible, evil, nasty messages since the beginning of email. I mean, even still today, people are sending horrible, evil, ugly emails. Email! Like, really? It's the best you got? An email? Okay, but yeah, people still do that. There is no truly safe social media. There are things you can do to make it safer. You can lock down to make sure it's private. You connect your friend group or people who you truly do know. You turn off public messaging so randos can't message you. Those very basic but important steps. If you have a lockdown account, friends who you truly do know, you're doing cool, amazing things, you're probably going to have a much better time. Issues arise when you are open and public and randos and creeps from anywhere can connect and message, and that's where things get out of hand. How to explain the dangers of talking to strangers on the internet? I'm assuming to your kids. How do you explain that to them? Stranger danger, the classic term that people will use. Stranger danger isn't a really effective strategy anymore. Because, being perfectly honest, I think your kids are reasonable. They know that the majority of people that they see in the grocery store, on the road, driving, people playing online games, the majority of people are just like them. They want to have fun, play games, and just enjoy life. The majority of people are typically average, regular folks. And so there's a small group who are problematic. Sure, okay, we got to deal with that. But, stranger danger doesn't work a whole lot, because if there is an issue, if there is a problem, and you say to your kids, well, don't talk to strangers, and the only person they have to ask for help to is a stranger, well then, do you reach out to help? I mean, challenging. I understand the meaning of it, but in practice, it doesn't work a whole lot. And when it comes to exploiters and such, exploiters, they are expert liars. They are the best of the best. They know how to trick a young person into making them think that they're no longer a stranger. Maybe they connect to a young person. Maybe they chat with them over a week or so, or they play games without messaging, and, they're doing cool, nice things, and then they begin to say things that become exploitive in nature, and, they can wear down that stranger stigma. Yeah. Stranger danger, not all that effective. Now, I think it's fair to address to kids, hey, you know what? On the internet, yeah, most people are nice, but it doesn't mean you have to talk to them, doesn't mean you have to engage with them, it doesn't mean that you have to allow anyone anywhere to send you a message and connect to you and play games with you. So, I think that's an effective, it's being honest, right? It's being realistic, being rational with your kids, because the moment they approach something that contradicts that message, it just completely destroys your credibility. Like, oh, I met someone at the grocery store who was pretty nice to me. I guess strangers can be nice, and the majority of them are pretty nice. So, yeah, being reasonable and rational. How can I check and manage my kids' privacy settings on their devices and apps? Go into the privacy settings, I think, is the question you're asking. Or you're asking what settings should you enable? Going to depend on the app and device and platform that you are using. For example, okay, let's say it's on a phone. Great. Go into the phone, go into the privacy settings, and just read every option. Oh, the phone is allowing to share personal information with the apps you are downloading. Allow or deny. Well, you probably want to press deny. Oh, the photos you're taking are connected to your GPS system. Do you want to allow that or turn it off? Well, you probably want to turn it off. The best way is to just go into those devices, go into those apps, and actually just read the options and think to yourself, is this something that you are okay with? Do I have a recommended list for all the apps out there? No, there's way too many, and they change all the time. They put the setting here today, tomorrow it's over here. Like that. Now there are, if you don't know where to look, your best friend, Google. There are a bunch of guides out there. Hey, how do I make my phone more private? Yep, I'm sure there's a guide somewhere that can help. Despite all of the, negatives around artificial intelligence and AI, AI can be one of your best tech assistants. Even for me, if there's a tech issue, like a something in my computer, there's a setting that I don't know where to find it, just using ChatGPT or going to Google Gemini or whatever AI program you use can be a really good, effective assistant for you. See, what I like about it is when you go online, you're trying to find a guide, but you go to a guide and it doesn't tell you exactly what you're looking for, or it miss a couple steps, or you get bombarded with advertisements and all this nonsense. You have to do all this reading and scrolling to get to the actual where to find the setting. I find using, ChatGPT and whatnot, where is the setting on this app to turn off geotagging or whatever? Yeah, the response is here, 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 here. That's where you go, and that's where you find the setting. Super useful. Doesn't bombard me with advertisements and such. Makes things a lot more efficient. Could it be wrong? I have yet to see it be wrong when I've used it. But, you know, if that doesn't work for you, feel free. You can send us a message. You know, we have a huge parent following on Facebook. A lot of parents follow us there. Just so happens parents use Facebook, go figure. Now, if you're questioning continuing to use Facebook, especially more recently, I completely understand. Totally get it. It's not for everybody. We have an email. We have a phone number. We're on most other major social platforms. We're not hard to find. Send us a question and we can help point you in the right direction at least. What do I do if I suspect my kid is being bullied on the internet? Suspicion is one thing, confirmation is another. So if you have suspicion, it's going to really depend on your relationship. If you're a family, you have a good relationship, you talk about this stuff, like the stuff that I'm talking about here, great, awesome. Have those conversations. That can be a good opportunity to get more involved. So you ask them, hey, what's going on? You know, sometimes kids that we've worked with at schools who, you know, they don't themselves realizing that they're actually being aggressed. Maybe they rationalize it by going, oh, they're just being funny, or oh, they're just teasing me, right? Sometimes young people, and even adults, will rationalize inappropriate behavior. They'll basically gaslight themselves into thinking, oh, this is okay. So, you know, sometimes it actually will take another pair of eyes to evaluate what's going on, taking a look and going, hey, you know what? No, this is not okay. This is not how someone should be talking to you. Yeah, joking with friends can, you know, sure, joking can, depending on the friendship, can be sometimes a bit harsh, but, you know, some friendships, and that's okay. So it's going to be depending on the friendship, who that person is, and if there is a continual history of that behavior where clearly they're not, you know, being funny, they're not, you know, making a joke. It's clearly a form of aggression. So, you know, reviewing that is a really important step. Having a historical context to the activity is also very, very important. If there is something going on, if there is criminal activity, if there is aggression, dealing with it right away, very important. Taking photos. When we do broadcasts or we're working in schools with kids, one of our best advice that we give them is, hey, if there is something going on, if there is a problem, if you are being aggressive, someone is breaking the law against you, simple thing you can do, take a photo, right? It can be as simple. If on my phone right here, I mean, if I press, you know, this button here and this button here at the same time, takes a photo. Whatever's on my screen, saves it to my camera. Or if you can't do that, or a young person doesn't have those buttons, they just have a tablet maybe, and well, not a problem. Take your device, have a camera, take a picture of a screen. Pretty simple like that. Part of the proof, part of the evidence. Sometimes young people that we've worked with, they shared with us that, hey, I went to my parents, I told them there was a problem, they didn't believe me, they blew me off, they went, it's just the internet, no big deal, just block, delete, or, you know, fair, you know, not having solid evidence, while the young person does deserve to be heard and have that problem dealt with, yeah, we've dealt with kids, we've dealt with teens who didn't get the help they deserved because no one really believed them. Having photo evidence, having a screenshot makes it so much easier for them and you to get the help you deserve. Hey, see, here's what happened, here's the evidence. Makes it much harder for someone to ignore that when you actually have the physical proof. The other reason why I recommend that is a lot of apps now, especially ones that are designed for messaging, have built-in features to allow people to delete messages off of your phone and their phone, which is kind of cool. So, can also be a problem. You can imagine someone is an aggressor. They're saying horrible, evil, ugly things, and they realize, oh, I can get in trouble for that. Some apps have features. After you sent a message, you can actually delete it afterwards on their phone and the other person's phone. So if you just, something's on your phone, there's a problem, and you go, hey, can you help me? Here's what they're doing. Let me open the app for you. Oh, where did it go? There's an opportunity sometimes to have things deleted. Don't want that. So if there's a proof, if there's some evidence, you can take a photo of it. You can now go, hey, see, they tried to delete it. I have an original copy. Here's what they said, to get you that help that you do deserve. And running up, it looks like on the last or so questions that we have thus far. Take a look. One more question in the queue. Awesome. Awesome setup. Oh, thank you. How many cameras do you have? Here in the studio, how many cameras? Well, I have my main camera here. I have my camera on the jib. It's a movable camera. That's 1, 2, 3. I have a camera over here as well. Didn't use this one. That's a touchscreen. That's kind of fun. There's another touchscreen camera. There's my top-down camera, my back camera, and then the camera for the green screen that I used in the very beginning. So what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I also have a mobile camera somewhere. 8 or so cameras. 8 cameras, 10-ish inputs. Kind of cool. We have a lot of fun here. Clearly, I'm a huge tech nerd. Above all else, I am a tech nerd. I love the opportunity, the creativity, and just the possibilities that technology provides for us adults, for kids and teens. We are seeing teens and kids doing super cool and amazing things. And like majority of young people, that is what they're doing. They're having a great time online. They're building an online record, an online history of all the cool, amazing things they've ever done. They're getting scholarships, grants, opportunities that can change their lives for the better. So, it's super important that we take it upon ourselves to acknowledge that. Yeah, there's challenges. Yeah, there's problems. But there's far more good. And there's certainly things we can do to minimize the risk. And it takes a bit of work. Have a couple things in place. Put some ground rules in and such. But, majority of young people, they're doing super cool and amazing things. And above all else, we just want them to have a really good experience. What more could we ask for? All right. Any other questions? Hopping in on the queue. Do a quick refresh. That looks to be the last questions popping in. Alrighty. On that note, thank you all so much for taking some time out of your evening to listen to some of the answers to some of your questions. Questions later on, feel free if you would like. We're not hard to find on the internet. We get questions all the time from students, from parents, teachers, and other community leaders. Some of these challenges are solvable as communities, and we're just a community resource. I mean, what's kind of neat about being on the Lower Island is, yes, we work with schools all across Canada, but we have a special place in our heart for our immediate local community. From the White Hatter team, thank you all so much, and we'll see you all again next time, either in another live broadcast on YouTube, wherever you may find us. Stay safe, have fun, and we'll see you all again, hopefully in the future. Bye-bye for now.
Good afternoon, Dr. Court. How you brought yourself to where you are today?
Wanting to be generous and accommodating.
Work with young people.
We decided to do some background research on these three major mobile ISPs, what's clearly prohibited and could in fact be a violation of their terms of service.
We thought this would be an opportunity to create a video about general buying and selling safety tips on the internet.
Created a version 2 that they call the Tonashi Scholar, and which is specifically designed for you.
About a new mobile phone that was on the market called the Wise Phone.
Hello everybody and welcome to Unanswered Questions. Sometimes we just don't get enough time to answer all the amazing questions from students during our live broadcast. Recent bug in Meta, Facebook, and Instagram proves you cannot always trust a password. AI cybercrime is happening right now and is likely going to be happening more. We wish to recognize these extraordinary and outstanding people by presenting them with the White Hatter Medallion.